Hello, my dear lore seekers. Welcome back to another evening of quiet contemplation. Tonight, our journey takes us not to a distant star or a forgotten age, but to a place that feels like home to so many of us. A place of crackling fires, floating candles, and corridors that whisper with the footfalls of 1,000 years. Settle in, let the noise of the world fade away, and join me as we listen to the stones of Hogwarts Castle. For within its ancient walls, beneath the layers of history and enchantment, lies a profound question that has echoed through the minds of its most curious students. Is the castle more than just a building? Is it, in some deep and magical way, alive? This is a question that goes beyond simple enchantments and charms. It touches upon the very nature of magic itself, on the power of memory, and the legacy of intention. To truly explore it, we must become magical architects, historians, and biologists all at once. We will investigate the castle's creation, not as a construction project, but as a birth. We will examine its strange and wondrous anatomy, not as a collection of rooms and corridors, but as the interconnected systems of a living organism. We will delve into its memory, its consciousness, and its will, piecing together the clues left behind by its 4 brilliant, flawed, and legendary creators, and interpreting the events that have shaped its long and mysterious life. So quiet your mind, and let us begin our exploration into the heart of the greatest magical sanctuary ever built, as we seek to understand the soul that may dwell within its ancient stones. Before we begin, if you find value in our stories, please take a moment to like and subscribe, or check out our Patreon link in the description below. Your support is what allows us to continue these journeys together. We appreciate it more than you know. And now, let's begin. Our story, like the castle's, begins a millennium ago, in an era of fear and persecution. In the early 10th century, the magical world of Britain was a fractured and dangerous place. There was no ministry of magic, no standardized education, and no sanctuary from the growing suspicion of the non-magical world. Witches and wizards lived in the shadows, teaching their children in secret, their knowledge passed down in whispers. It was a time when a young, untrained magic user was as much a danger to themselves as they were to others, and a constant liability to their community. In this age of peril, 4 of the most powerful and renowned magical practitioners of their time came together with a shared revolutionary vision: to create a safe haven, a fortress of learning where magical children could be gathered, protected, and trained. Their names have since become legend, etched into the very identity of the school they would build. Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. They chose a location remote and wild, deep in the Scottish Highlands, a place of rugged cliffs, and a deep, dark loch. Here, they would combine their formidable powers to raise a castle. But what they created was far more than a simple structure of stone and mortar. Each founder, with their distinct personality, their unique magical affinities, and their deeply held, often conflicting philosophies, poured a piece of themselves into the foundations. They did not merely build a school. They created a magical entity with a four-chambered heart, each chamber beating to a different rhythm. To understand if the castle is alive, we must first understand the four distinct life forces that were woven into its conception. For the castle's seemingly chaotic and contradictory nature is not a sign of decay, but a direct and intentional consequence of its four creators. It is a living testament to their genius, their friendship, and their ultimate tragic division. Rowena Ravenclaw, hailed as the most brilliant witch of her age, was the mind of the operation. She was a figure of immense intellect, creativity, and an insatiable love for learning. It is said that the very name and location of Hogwarts came to her in a dream, a vision of a warty hog leading her to the cliffside by the Great Lake. This connection to dreams and divination hints at a deeper, more intuitive form of magic, one that sees the patterns and possibilities hidden within the world. Her official skills lay in the realms of charms and, most importantly, magical architecture. It was Rowena who is credited with designing the fundamental layout of Hogwarts, a floor plan that was, from its very inception, intended to be ever-changing. Think of the castle as we know it. A sprawling, bewildering labyrinth of 142 staircases, of trick steps and doors that are not doors at all but solid walls in disguise. This is not accidental chaos. This is Ravenclaw's philosophy made manifest in stone. She believed that learning was not a passive act, but an active pursuit. The castle itself was to be the first and most constant lesson for its students. Its shifting nature was a deliberate feature, an ever-present intellectual challenge designed to keep the minds of its inhabitants sharp, observant, and adaptable. To navigate Hogwarts was to engage in a daily exercise of memory, logic, and creative problem-solving. The castle's layout is, in essence, a permanent, large-scale riddle, a testament to the founder who valued wit beyond measure. Her most direct contribution is, of course, Ravenclaw Tower. Unlike the other common rooms, its entrance is not guarded by a simple password or a hidden mechanism. To enter, one must answer a riddle posed by a bronze eagle-headed knocker. There is no single, static answer to learn. One must apply logic and reason in the moment. Get it wrong, and you must wait for another who is clever enough to solve it. This entrance is a microcosm of Ravenclaw's vision for the entire castle, a place that constantly demands and rewards intelligence. She did not build a mere dormitory. She built a daily test of the very quality she prized most. The shifting staircases, the hidden passages with their subtle clues, the very unpredictability of the corridors, all of these can be seen as extensions of her architectural philosophy. She designed a living labyrinth, a place that was not just a container for knowledge, but an active participant in the process of learning. She was the castle's brilliant, logical, and ever-curious mind. If Rowena Ravenclaw provided the castle with its mind, then Helga Hufflepuff gave it its heart. Hailing from a broad valley, she was a witch renowned for her kindness, her sense of fairness, and her profound belief in loyalty and hard work. While the other founders sought to select students based on specific, elite traits: bravery, intelligence, ambition, Helga's philosophy was one of radical inclusivity. She famously declared that she would teach the lot and treat them just the same. She valued community and compassion above all else, creating a space for all those who were willing to learn, regardless of their background or particular aptitude. Her magical talents were perfectly aligned with this nurturing spirit. Helga was exceptionally gifted with food-related charms. It was she who designed and established the Hogwarts kitchens, a vast, warm and welcoming space located directly beneath the Great Hall. This placement is deeply symbolic. The kitchens are the literal and metaphorical core of the school, the source of its sustenance and comfort. Many of the recipes still used for the grand Hogwarts feasts 1,000 years later originated with her, a lasting legacy of her gift for providing nourishment and joy. Her magic was not the flashy intellectual magic of Ravenclaw, but something more fundamental: the magic of home, of hearth, and of hospitality. Perhaps her most significant and telling contribution, however, was her relationship with the house elves. In an age where such beings were often treated as mere property, Helga Hufflepuff provided them with a sanctuary. She brought house elves to work in the Hogwarts kitchens, not as slaves, but as valued members of the school community, ensuring they would be treated with kindness and protected from the abuse they often faced elsewhere. This act reveals the true depth of her philosophy. She didn't just build a place of sustenance for witches and wizards. She created a functioning, caring ecosystem. The house elves, in turn, became bound not to a single family or master, but to the institution of Hogwarts itself. They became the castle's lifeblood, a dedicated magical workforce that maintains its daily functions from behind the scenes. Helga Hufflepuff, therefore, did not just contribute a set of rooms or recipes. She imbued the very stones of Hogwarts with the spirit of inclusivity, warmth, and care. She created its nurturing, life-sustaining soul, ensuring that, for all its dangers and challenges, Hogwarts would, above all else, be a home. Every living thing needs a way to defend itself, and it was Godric Gryffindor who gave the castle its fighting spirit. Hailing from the village that would one day bear his name, Godric's Hollow, he was the foremost duelist of his time, a man who valued courage, daring, and chivalry above all else. He was the embodiment of bravery, believing in standing up for what was right even, and especially when it was difficult. His progressive stance on blood status was a cornerstone of his philosophy. At a time of rising prejudice, Gryffindor was a staunch champion of accepting Muggle-born students, arguing that magical ability, not ancestry, was the true measure of a witch or wizard. This belief would ultimately put him on a collision course with his old friend, Salazar Slytherin, and define one of the central conflicts within the castle's identity. Gryffindor's legacy is not found in the static architecture of the castle, but in its capacity for action, its inherent potential for heroism and defense. Consider his most famous artifacts, which he left to the school. The sorting hat, originally his own, was enchanted to house the consciousness of all 4 founders, a tool designed to seek out and nurture specific virtues. But it is the sword of Gryffindor that truly reveals his intent. A magnificent, goblin-made blade. Its most profound enchantment is its ability to present itself to any true Gryffindor in a moment of great need. It is not a passive weapon waiting to be wielded. It is a responsive, almost sentient tool that actively seeks out worthiness and courage. This suggests that the magic Gryffindor valued and employed was one of intervention, a magic that aids the brave and empowers the just. This philosophy extends to the very structure of the castle he helped create. While Ravenclaw may have designed the secret passages as intellectual puzzles, it is easy to imagine Gryffindor championing their creation as opportunities for daring, for rule-bending, and for the kind of mischief that builds character. These hidden roots are the castle's arteries of adventure, encouraging exploration and rewarding those bold enough to stray from the beaten path. In a larger sense, Gryffindor provided the castle with its immune system. He imbued it with a righteous will, a readiness to defend its inhabitants, and a magical framework that could respond to threats. When the castle later animates its armor to defend itself during the final battle, it is acting in the spirit of Godric Gryffindor. He gave the castle its courage, its strong right arm, and its unwavering resolve to protect the innocent within its walls. Finally, we come to the darkest and most secretive of the founders, Salazar Slytherin. A powerful and brilliant wizard from the fens of eastern England, Slytherin was a master of legilimency, the art of reading minds, and a Parselmouth, possessing the rare ability to speak with snakes. He valued ambition, cunning, resourcefulness, and most infamously, blood purity. His deeply ingrained paranoia and prejudice against Muggle-borns became the source of the great schism that would tear the founders apart and leave a permanent scar upon the soul of Hogwarts. While the others sought to build a sanctuary, Slytherin, in his fear and mistrust, embedded a weapon deep within its foundations. His contribution to the castle is not in its sunlit towers or welcoming halls, but in its hidden depths, its dark subconscious. After years of escalating conflict with the other founders, particularly Gryffindor, over the issue of admitting Muggle-born students, Slytherin chose to leave the school he had helped create. But before he departed, he constructed a secret chamber, a place unknown to his fellow founders, hidden deep beneath the dungeons. This became the Chamber of Secrets. To guard it, he left a monster, a basilisk, a giant serpent that could be controlled only by his true heir. The chamber was his final, terrible legacy, a time bomb of prejudice set to one day purge the school of all who were unworthy to study magic. Slytherin's magic was one of concealment, paranoia, and aggression. Beyond the grand and terrible secret of the chamber, it is believed he created other hidden routes and shortcuts throughout the dungeons, known only to his own students, allowing them to move through the castle with the stealth and cunning he so admired. One such passage is said to connect the dungeons to the entrance hall, hidden behind a sentient portrait of Slytherin himself, accessible only by uttering the password, Mortal Dread. His magic represents the repressed, fearful, and dangerous aspects of the castle's personality. It is the dark undercurrent that flows beneath the noble ideals of the other three founders, a constant reminder that even the greatest sanctuary can harbor a secret poison. He built the castle's shadows, its hidden fears, and its capacity for cold, calculated malice. And so the very stones of Hogwarts were laid upon a foundation of contradiction. It was conceived as a unified whole, yet built by four individuals with fundamentally warring ideologies. Ravenclaw's intellectual labyrinth, Hufflepuff's nurturing hearth, Gryffindor's courageous fortress, and Slytherin's paranoid secret. The castle is all of these things at once. Its unpredictable nature, its moments of comforting sanctuary, followed by sudden peril, its ability to both teach and test, to nurture and to threaten. This is not a flaw. It is the castle's essential character. It is a magical being born from four parents, forever embodying their shared dream and their bitter division. The castle is not merely enchanted, it is conflicted. And it is in this conflict, this constant, 1,000-year-long internal debate, that we find the first, most profound evidence of its life. For 1,000 years, Hogwarts Castle has stood, a silent witness to the endless procession of young witches and wizards who have walked its halls. It has seen generations come and go, has felt the thrum of countless spells cast within its walls, and has absorbed the echoes of every triumph, every tragedy, every whispered secret, and shouted incantation. This brings us to our second great theory concerning the castle's nature, the idea of magical saturation. This concept posits that a place, particularly one as ancient and intensely magical as Hogwarts, can, over time, absorb the residual energy of the magic performed within it. It is not merely a passive container, but an active reservoir, and that this accumulated power can develop its own emergent properties, its own form of consciousness. Think of it like a stone in a riverbed. Over centuries, the constant flow of water smooths its edges, changes its shape, and leaves its mark. In Hogwarts, the river is magic itself, a torrent of spells, potions, enchantments, and raw, untamed magical energy from thousands of adolescent magic users. Every levitation charm, every transfiguration, every defensive spell, every failed potion and magical accident leaves an imprint. Every powerful emotion, the joy of a Quidditch victory, the anxiety of exams, the fear of the dark arts, the first stirrings of love, all of this resonates with magical energy, and the castle has been soaking in this energy for 10 centuries. It is a battery that has been charging for a millennium, and that stored power has begun to think for itself. Fans and scholars of the wizarding world have long speculated that this is the source of the castle's more peculiar behaviors. The random quirks, the trick stares, the doors that need to be tickled. These might not be specific enchantments cast by the founders, but rather spontaneous manifestations of a building so saturated with magic that it has begun to develop a personality, much like an old house develops creaks and groans that give it character. Some have pointed to the Weasley twins' portable swamp as a small-scale example. After they set it off in a corridor to spite Dolores Umbridge, Professor Flitwick, a master of charms, was able to remove most of it, but a small patch remained, roped off, because it was a good bit of magic. The castle, it seems, had incorporated this powerful piece of mischief into itself, preserving it. This suggests an ability to not just be affected by magic, but to adopt and maintain it. The very stone and mortar have become as much magic as they are material. This theory, however, finds its most compelling anchor in an object that lies at the very heart of Hogwarts history, an artifact that predates the school itself, the Pensieve. A Pensieve, as we know, is a rare and powerful magical device, a wide, shallow basin of stone or metal, enchanted to store and recreate memories. A wizard can place their own thoughts and recollections into the basin, where they exist as a silvery, ethereal substance. One can then enter the Pensieve to relive these memories with perfect fidelity, observing every detail as if they were truly there. It is a tool for reflection, for understanding, and for sorting through the tangled threads of thought and memory. The Hogwarts Pensieve is an object of immense antiquity, made of ornately carved stone and engraved with Saxon runes that mark it as far older than the school. According to one legend, the 4 founders did not bring the Pensieve to the castle. They discovered it, half buried in the ground, on the very spot where they decided to build their school. This is a crucial detail. Its presence suggests that the location itself, the very land upon which Hogwarts stands, has a natural, deep-seated affinity for memory, for the storage and preservation of thought and experience. The founders may have chosen this spot precisely because they recognized it as a place where magic and memory ran deep. The Hogwarts Pensieve became a repository for the wisdom of generations of headmasters and headmistresses. They would leave their memories behind, creating an invaluable library of experience for their successors to consult. It is a living archive, a collective consciousness passed down through the ages. And this provides us with a powerful new lens through which to view the castle. What if the presence of the pensieve is not a coincidence, but a key to understanding the castle's fundamental design? What if Hogwarts is not just a building that contains a pensieve, but a building that is a pensieve on a macrocosmic scale? Consider the parallels. A pensieve is a basin that holds the silvery substance of memory. The castle is a great stone basin, nestled in the Scottish Highlands, that has held the magical and emotional substance of 1,000 years of life. The memories within a pensieve can be explored and relived. The castle, with its secrets and its history, is a place that is constantly being explored, its past rediscovered by each new generation. The purpose of a pensieve is to sort and understand a mass of thoughts. The purpose of the school is to bring order and understanding to the chaotic magic of its students. Viewed this way, the castle's sentience is the accumulated consciousness of every person who has ever lived within its walls, every event it has ever witnessed. The stone and mortar are the basin, and the 1,000 years of magical history are the silvery memories swirling within. Its strange behaviors are the result of this vast collective memory, stirring and responding to the present. The castle remembers. It remembers the founder's arguments. It remembers every secret whispered in its corridors. It remembers the hopes and fears of every student. Its aliveness is not just a product of ambient magic, but of accumulated memory. It has become a living archive, a guardian of history that has, through the sheer weight of the experiences it holds, developed a form of awareness. It is a place that doesn't just have memories. In a very real sense, it is memory. If we are to accept that Hogwarts is a living entity, then we must be able to identify its anatomy, its functioning systems. Just as a biological organism has a skeleton, a nervous system, and a conscious will, so too can we find magical analogues within the castle's structure and enchantments. These are not just disparate features, but interconnected components that work in concert to form a single, complex being. Let us begin with the castle's most famous and bewildering feature, the Grand Staircase. The books tell us there are 142 staircases at Hogwarts. They are a chaotic collection, wide and sweeping, narrow and rickety. Some, we are told, lead to a different destination on a Friday. Others have a vanishing step halfway up that one must remember to jump. And at least one is explicitly referred to as a swiveling staircase. The overall impression given to any newcomer is that the entire layout of the castle is in constant, unpredictable flux. The film adaptations chose to visualize this as a grand central chamber filled with massive stone staircases physically rotating through the air, connecting and disconnecting from various landings in a dizzying ballet of architecture. While this may be a more dramatic interpretation than the books strictly describe, it captures the spirit of the place perfectly. It is a structure that refuses to sit still. This constant movement, however, may not be as random as it first appears. It can be seen as the castle's skeletal system, constantly reconfiguring itself. And like any living body, its movements can be purposeful. There are several instances where the stairs seem to guide students not where they want to go, but where the castle, for its own reasons, believes they need to be. The most famous example occurs in Harry's first year. While trying to get to class, a staircase unexpectedly moves, depositing Harry, Ron, and Hermione directly in front of the forbidden third-floor corridor, where they have their first fateful encounter with Fluffy, the three-headed dog. Was this an accident? Or was it the castle's first subtle intervention, a nudge from its stony skeleton to set its future champion on the right path? This implies a form of intention, a subtle intelligence directing the flow of life within its own body, using its very structure to influence the destiny of its inhabitants. If the staircases are the castle's skeleton, then the room of requirement is its conscious will, its creative mind made manifest. This is, without question, the single most compelling piece of evidence for the castle's sentience. Located on the 7th floor, opposite a tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy, attempting to teach trolls ballet, the room of requirement, or the come-and-go room as the house elves call it, is a space that defies normal magical and physical laws. It does not exist in a fixed state. It appears only when a person is in true and desperate need of it. To summon it, one must walk past the blank stretch of wall 3 times, concentrating with all one's might on what is required. If the need is genuine, a door will appear where none was before. The sheer versatility of this room is staggering, and each of its manifestations reveals a deeper layer of its intelligence. When Albus Dumbledore found himself in urgent need of a lavatory late one night, he stumbled upon a room filled with an exquisite collection of chamber pots. When Fred and George Weasley needed a place to hide from Argus Filch, the room became a simple broom cupboard. When Dobby the house elf needed to care for a drunken Winky, it provided an elf-sized bed and antidotes for butterbeer. For Dumbledore's army, it became the perfect secret training ground, complete with cushions for dueling practice, bookshelves stocked with defensive texts, and even sneakoscopes to warn of approaching enemies. It understood their need not just for a space, but for the tools required for their purpose. The room also demonstrates an awareness of its own limitations and the laws of magic. It cannot create food, as this would violate Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration. This shows that its magic, while powerful, operates within the established rules of the wizarding world. It is also unplottable, never appearing on the Marauder's map, and it possesses a form of magical occupancy law. It cannot be entered if someone is already inside using it for a conflicting purpose. When Draco Malfoy was using it to repair the vanishing cabinet, a task that required secrecy and isolation, Harry was unable to force his way in because the room was already fulfilling another's need. Its two most profound forms are the Room of Hidden Things and the sanctuary it became during the final battle. As the Room of Hidden Things, it transformed into a vast cathedral-sized chamber, a city of lost and forgotten objects hidden by generations of Hogwarts students. This form shows the room acting as a part of the castle's long-term memory, a physical repository for the detritus of 1,000 years. And during the Death Eater's control of the school, it became a true sanctuary, a safe house for the student resistance, complete with hammocks, bathrooms, and even a secret tunnel connecting it to the Hog's Head pub. In this, the room demonstrated its ultimate purpose: protection. It perceived the needs of its inhabitants for safety, for tools, for secrecy, for comfort, and it provided. The Room of Requirement is not just a clever enchantment. It is a creative, problem-solving consciousness. It is the castle's mind, capable of perception, intelligence, and immense magical power, all directed towards serving the needs of those within. Every complex organism requires a nervous system to process information and a memory to store it. At Hogwarts, this vital role is filled by its most ethereal residents, the ghosts and the portraits. The castle is famously the most heavily haunted dwelling in all of Britain, and its spectral inhabitants are more than just spooky apparitions. They are an integral part of its living ecosystem. The ghosts, described as the imprints of departed souls who feared death and chose to remain behind, are free-roaming entities. They drift through walls, observe the daily lives of students and staff, and possess centuries of accumulated knowledge about the castle's secrets. They are the castle's sensory neurons, its roving reporters, gathering real-time information from every corner of the school, from the highest tower to the deepest dungeon. Nearly Headless Nick, the Fat Friar, the Grey Lady, and the Bloody Baron are not just mascots for their houses. They are living libraries of their houses' histories. The portraits, on the other hand, form a more structured and deliberate network. These are not simple paintings. A magical portrait is enchanted by the artist to move and to reflect the personality and mannerisms of its subject. While most are limited to repeating catchphrases and exhibiting a shallow version of their subject's character, the portraits of the Hogwarts headmasters and headmistresses are a unique case. It is tradition for a head to have their portrait painted early in their tenure. This portrait is then kept in the headmaster's office, where it spends years, sometimes decades, observing and learning from its living counterpart. The headmaster actively teaches the portrait, imbuing it with their memories, their wisdom, and their thought processes. The result is a remarkably sophisticated magical construct, a near-perfect echo of the original. After the headmaster's death, their portrait takes its place on the wall of the office, joining a silent council of their predecessors. This collection of portraits in the headmaster's office functions as the castle's central processing unit, its brain. It is a repository of centuries of leadership, wisdom, and strategic knowledge that can be consulted by the current headmaster. The portraits can communicate with each other, visiting adjoining frames within the castle to pass messages with incredible speed. Phineas Nigellus Black, for instance, had a second portrait at Grimmauld Place, and could travel between the two locations, acting as a long-distance messenger for Dumbledore. This network of talking, thinking, and traveling portraits, combined with the ever-watchful ghosts, forms the castle's information network, its memory and its nervous system, constantly observing, communicating, and storing the experiences of the living organism. Finally, no living being can survive without a circulatory system, a mechanism for maintenance, repair, and the distribution of energy. At Hogwarts, this role is filled by the legion of over 100 house elves who work tirelessly in the kitchens and throughout the castle. As we have discussed, their presence is a legacy of Helga Hufflepuff's compassion, but their function goes far beyond simple domestic service. They are in a deep symbiotic relationship with the castle itself. House elves possess a unique and powerful form of magic, performed without wands and, in some ways, less constrained than that of wizards. Most notably, they are able to apparate and disapparate at will anywhere within the Hogwarts grounds, a feat that is impossible for witches and wizards due to the powerful anti-apparition jinxes that protect the school. This suggests their magic is intrinsically linked to the castle, operating on a different level, as if they are part of its native systems. They are the magical equivalent of white blood cells or mitochondria, constantly working to maintain homeostasis. They clean the castle, repair minor damages, prepare the food that sustains its inhabitants, and carry the fires in the hearths. They are the unseen force that keeps the great organism running smoothly. There is a pervasive theory in wizarding lore that house elves need a magical bond to survive, that without a connection to a powerful wizarding family, or a location saturated with magic, they would wither and die. If this is true, then their relationship with Hogwarts is truly symbiotic. The castle, a vast reservoir of ancient and powerful magic, provides them with the energy they need to thrive. In return, they dedicate their lives and their magic to the service and maintenance of the castle. They are not its slaves. They are a vital, integrated component of its magical biology. They are the lifeblood that flows through its stone veins, ensuring that the heart of Hogwarts continues to beat. With all these living systems in place, the shifting skeleton of the staircases, the conscious will of the room of requirement, the nervous system of the portraits and ghosts, and the symbiotic lifeblood of the house elves, it becomes clear that Hogwarts is far more than an enchanted building. It is a fully functional magical organism, and if any doubt remained, one final piece of evidence cements this conclusion: the Marauder's map. created by James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew. The map is a masterpiece of magical cartography. On a blank piece of parchment, it reveals a complete and astonishingly detailed layout of Hogwarts Castle, including all its secret passages. More than that, it tracks the real-time movement of every single person within the grounds, represented by a tiny, labeled dot. Now, consider the implications. How could a static map possibly chart a castle whose very structure is in constant flux? A normal blueprint would be obsolete within minutes. The only way the Marauder's map could function is if it is not a static image, but a dynamic, real-time, diagnostic tool. It must be actively and continuously reading the castle's magical state, tapping directly into its systems to render an accurate representation. The map's existence is proof that the castle, for all its chaos, possesses a coherent, readable magical structure, a living datascape. The Marauders did not just draw a map of a building. They created a magical interface that connects to a living, breathing entity, revealing its anatomy and the life flowing within it. To truly grasp the nature of Hogwarts' aliveness, we must look beyond the enchantments layered upon it over the centuries and delve into the very essence of the magic that brought it into being. The castle's soul, its primordial spark of life, may not have been an accident of accumulated magic, but an intentional act of creation, forged from a power far older and more fundamental than any simple charm or hex. This is the power known as ancient magic. What is ancient magic? In the wizarding world, it is a force that is spoken of in whispers, a deep and mysterious power that operates on a different level from the conventional spell work taught in classrooms. It is not a matter of incantations and wand movements, but of profound emotion, intention, and sacrifice. It is the magic that is endemic to the very nature of reality, an effect triggered by events and forces that lie at the heart of existence itself. It is primal, intuitive, and does not require a wand to be channeled. The most famous and powerful example of ancient magic is the sacrificial protection that Lily Potter conferred upon her infant son, Harry, when Voldemort gave her the choice to step aside. She chose to die to save her child. This act of pure, selfless love created a magical shield that the Dark Lord, for all his power and knowledge, could neither break nor comprehend. He despised this kind of magic, viewing it as a weakness, and in his arrogance, he consistently underestimated it to his cost. This protection lingered in Harry's very blood, a lingering enchantment born not of a spell, but of a mother's love. Other examples exist in the natural world. The thick hides of dragons, for instance, are said to be imbued with ancient magic, which makes them resistant to all but the most powerful of conventional spells. It is the magic of life itself, of love, of sacrifice, the foundational forces of the universe. If modern spells are the applications we use, then ancient magic is the source code from which they are all derived. Now, let us apply this understanding to the creation of Hogwarts. The four founders were not merely skilled builders. They were four of the most powerful magic users of their era, living in a time when the boundaries between different forms of magic were likely more fluid. Their individual talents, Helga's profound gift for food-related charms that went beyond mere recipes, Godric's almost supernatural prowess in combat, Rowena's ability to perceive the castle's design in a dream, can all be interpreted as expressions of this deeper, more intuitive connection to magic. More importantly, consider the emotional crucible in which Hogwarts was forged. The decision to build the school was not a commercial venture or an act of vanity. It was an act of desperation and of hope. It was driven by the intense, foundational emotion of fear. Fear for the future of magical children and the wizarding world itself. And it was fueled by an equally powerful hope. The hope of creating a sanctuary, a place of safety, learning, and community. This combination of profound fear and profound hope, of a desperate desire to protect and a powerful love for their craft and their people, created the perfect catalyst for the use of ancient magic. It is highly probable, then, that the founders did not simply stack stones and cast binding charms. They likely channeled their collective will, their shared vision, and their powerful conflicting emotions directly into the land itself. They would have poured their love of learning, their belief in loyalty, their dedication to courage, and even their deep-seated paranoia into the very foundations. Using the raw, life-giving power of ancient magic, they did not just build Hogwarts, they grew it. They gave it a purpose, a mission, and a soul from the very moment of its inception. This reframes our entire understanding of the castle's sentience. It suggests that its aliveness is not something that developed slowly over 1,000 years, but a core property that it has possessed since its creation. The theory of magical saturation is not incorrect, but it is incomplete. The 1,000 years of spells, events, and emotions absorbed by the castle did not create its consciousness. They nourished it. The castle was born with a spark of life, a soul of ancient magic. The subsequent millennium of history was its childhood, its adolescence, its long, slow maturation into the complex and aware entity it is today. The castle did not become alive. It has been alive all along. The ultimate test of any living organism is its response to a mortal threat. A creature's will to survive, its ability to defend itself, is the most fundamental proof of its life. For centuries, Hogwarts Castle has exhibited a low-level, persistent, protective instinct. But in its darkest hour, during the final confrontation with Lord Voldemort and his army, the castle awoke, and we witnessed the full, terrifying power of a fortress fighting for its own life and the lives of those it sheltered. Even before the final battle, there were precedents for the castle's capacity for self-defense. Its most basic protective layers are passive, but powerful. The entire grounds are unplottable, meaning they cannot be marked on any muggle or magical map, save for one created with the castle's own intrinsic magic, like the Marauder's map. It is shielded by powerful muggle-repelling charms, which cause any non-magical person who approaches to see only a crumbling, dangerous ruin, and to feel a sudden, urgent need to be somewhere else. Internally, it is protected by an anti-apparition jinx, preventing anyone from apparating into or out of the grounds, a fundamental security measure that controls all access to the school. These enchantments function like a skin, a protective barrier against the outside world. But the castle has also shown the ability to enact a more targeted, active defense. During Dolores Umbridge's tyrannical reign as headmistress, the castle itself seemed to reject her. She was an illegitimate authority, a cancer within its walls, and the castle responded. The headmaster's office, guarded by its stone gargoyle, sealed itself against her. The gargoyle refused her entry, recognizing that she was not the true master of the school. This was not a spell cast by a professor in secret. It was an act of will by the castle itself, a localized immune response to a foreign body it sought to expel. The trick stares that trip the unwary, the false doors that confound the intruder. These can be seen as part of this same system, a constant, low-level testing of its inhabitants, sorting those who belong from those who do not. These were but tremors, however, compared to the earthquake of the Battle of Hogwarts. As Lord Voldemort's army of Death Eaters, giants, and dark creatures amassed at the borders of the school grounds, the castle's defenders, led by the professors and the Order of the Phoenix, enacted its highest level of security. Powerful shield charms were cast, creating a shimmering, invisible dome of protection over the entire castle, a barrier that buckled and groaned under the assault of the enemy's dark curses. But this was a defense applied to the castle. The true awakening came from within. As the battle loomed, Professor Minerva McGonagall, acting headmistress and the castle's de facto commander, strode into the great hall, raised her wand, and uttered an incantation of immense power, Pure Totem Locomotor. Her voice echoing with the authority of ages, she gave a single, clear command to the castle itself. Hogwarts is threatened. Man the boundaries, protect us, do your duty to our school. In that moment, the castle's immune system activated in its entirety. Throughout the corridors, a great rumbling and crashing began. The suits of armor that had stood silent vigil for centuries leaped from their plinths, their metal joints grinding as they raised visors and drew phantom swords. The statues of beasts and ancient wizards stirred on their pedestals, stone cracking as they tore themselves free and marched to the battlements. Even the very desks in the classrooms were said to have joined the fray, forming barricades and charging the enemy. McGonagall's spell was not a simple animation charm that brought inanimate objects to life. It was a call to arms. She did not create an army. She awakened the army that was already there, dormant within the castle's very structure. The statues and suits of armor were not puppets. They were the castle's own soldiers, extensions of its physical body and its protective will, imbued with a duty to defend the school. Her spell was the command that triggered a full-scale, system-wide response to an existential threat. The castle, having recognized that its life and the lives of the children within it were in mortal peril, mobilized every resource at its disposal to fight back. It was a fortress awakened, a living bastion making its last, most defiant stand. This was not merely a building under siege. This was a guardian fighting for its young. The layered, escalating, and intelligent nature of this response, from passive barriers to targeted rejection, to all-out war, is the behavior of a single, unified entity. It is the ultimate proof that when pushed to the brink, the castle of Hogwarts is, indeed, alive. Our journey through the secret life of Hogwarts Castle has taken us from its very conception to its most desperate battle. We began with the four-chambered heart of its foundation, where the conflicting philosophies of the founders were woven into its stones, giving it a complex and multifaceted personality from birth. We saw how, over a millennium, it became a great reservoir of magic and memory, absorbing the experiences of generations until it functioned like a vast living pensieve, a conscious archive of wizarding history. We have dissected its anatomy, identifying the shifting staircases as its skeleton, the room of requirement as its conscious will, the network of ghosts and portraits as its memory and nervous system, and the symbiotic house elves as its very lifeblood. We have uncovered the primordial spark of its creation, suggesting that it was born not of ordinary spell work, but of the raw, emotional, life-giving power of ancient magic. And finally, we witnessed its awakening as a warrior, a sentient fortress mobilizing its own body to defend itself and its inhabitants. So, is Hogwarts Castle alive? If by alive we mean flesh and blood, a beating heart and breathing lungs, then of course the answer is no. But that is a narrow, non-magical definition. The evidence we have explored points to a far more profound and mysterious form of life. Hogwarts is an emergent intelligence, a sentient magical construct. It possesses a discernible, if complex, personality. It has a vast and accessible memory. It demonstrates a clear and powerful will, most often directed towards the protection and education of its students. It is not merely a place, it is a presence. It is a guardian, a teacher, a repository of history, and a living entity in its own right, born of magic, nourished by experience and defined by its profound and enduring purpose. The next time you dream of walking its hallowed halls, of seeing the floating candles in the great hall, or of climbing the grand staircase, listen closely. Listen beyond the whispers of the ghosts and the chatter of the portraits. You might just hear the slow, steady rhythm of stone and spell, the ancient, magical heartbeat of the castle itself. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of Hogwarts. I wish you a night of peaceful thoughts and magical dreams.